So I'm wondering if you were always going to be down for a Kick-Ass 2, or were you a little hesitant to reprise the role?
Yeah, I kind of was hesitant, purely because I thought the script was great. I mean, Jeff brought the script, and this had been something that, you know, we weren't even thinking of doing a second one. You know, Matthew Vaughn, who directed the first, who's producer on this, it was just a sort of standalone movie. I mean, yes, it had sequels attached to it in a way, but our options and everything ran out, and, you know, 4 years later, it sort of came back round again, and it was all like, should we all do this? Yeah, it's wicked, because the screenplay that Jeff wrote was, it had all those, it had the wittiness, the funny, action-packed, you know, but also, more importantly, it took those characters and just developed them, and they had such heart and emotional journeys. And I think we all understood that and wanted to take it there. But Chloe's, she's physically a lot older and in a different place in the world, so that was a more, like, I can understand that was great. And Chris also is in a whole other headspace and revenge and whatnot. But my character was still the same character, but then going through some journey. But it was really quite a challenge for my head to kind of, how I was able to attack that and try and make it so it's familiar to the people that saw the first, but also for that character, that you didn't just come into the second one and be someone completely different again. It had to kind of relate, and that was quite a hard challenge for me.
You mentioned Chloe, and, you know, obviously this movie put you both on, like, a different level.
Yeah.
She's growing up in the spotlight now.
Yeah.
How has your relationship on the set changed in these 4 years?
We don't ever see Chloe. She kind of, you know, stays in her trailer every day.
Diva.
You know, she's, no, she's amazing. She's one of the most talented young girls I've ever met. She's so smart, way ahead of her years, really mature, and really understands this world. I mean, you know, the reason we get into it is for passion and the love of acting and kind of creating characters or whatever it is. But you know what? It's hard because there's a lot of business aspect to it. And I think she's really smart and been able to kind of block all that crap out and kind of just keep on the right path. And she's a real home girl, you know?
And, you know, your character has a lot of pretty deep emotional scenes in this. It's not just, like, all goofy comedy type stuff. So as an actor, what's more challenging? Is it the action, the choreography stuff, or is it, like, kind of getting those deep emotional scenes going?
Yeah, I mean, they're both kind of, I suppose they're different, really. The choreography I see as a dance and a kind of, but I like to bring the aspect of my character into the fighting. So you can't just necessarily see, oh, now he fights like a kickboxer who's been training in UFC and all that. It doesn't make sense. So, you know, it's like he's still Dave. You still got to remember that guy underneath all that is gonna flinch and jump, whatever. So, you know, that I find really interesting. And the emotional aspect, I think, I love getting into real deep sort of emotional tangles and twists and things. So yeah, I find it all a challenge, but I find it all fun and enjoyable.
So it's been about 4 years since you last played Hit Girl, and obviously a lot has happened to you in that time. How has your approach changed to the character in that interim?
Well, you know, you grow up as an actor. You know, you go from being an 11-year-old actor who hasn't experienced much in their life, and then when you're 15, I mean, you know, it's only been 4 years, but you experience so much in that little point of time, and you change so much as a girl, especially. You become a young woman, and trying to portray that within who Minnie McCready is was really interesting because, you know, you almost meet her as if she's 15, but she still has the same exact mannerisms and the same kind of attitude as the 11-year-old hit girl you see until the end of the film when you finally see her as an adult. What
about the action sequences? I mean, are they tougher now, or were they tougher when you were younger?
They're much easier now, I'd say, because you know, when I was younger, they had to get me to a physical fitness level to even start training. Whereas now, you know, I kind of keep myself at that fitness level to be able to just jump into training whenever. So I pretty much just kind of jumped right into the choreography of Hit Girl pretty immediately.
And was there any sequence in particular that was difficult? I mean, you have this fight sequence with this character named Mother Russia, she's
Crazy.
a 6-foot bodybuilder. What was that like?
It was great. You know, it was such a fun kind of crazy, weird fight sequence to have with someone who's 2 feet taller than you, basically, and probably 200 pounds of muscle more than you. And it was such a contrast. But I think that's what's so cool about that fight scene, because it's this little girl who's fighting this huge woman, but they're pretty much on par with each other, and they completely can spar because she's so on her game.
And no real life injuries during that?
No. I was good, thankfully. Yeah, we had such a good stunt crew, and they kept me safe the whole time.
Do you foresee a solo Hit Girl movie in the future?
I mean, you never know. It's hard because you have to have the right reason, to make a solo Hit Girl movie. And she's such a flashy character, you wouldn't want her to become annoying by seeing so much of her. You know what I mean? So she's kind of one of those characters you want to see in those sweet little bursts, because otherwise you might be like, okay, we get it, like you're crass and you're hardcore, but you need to have a bit of that undertone of Aaron's character to have that solid through line.
And, this fall we'll see you playing another troubled teenager in Carrey. Are there any similarities between Hit Girl and Carrey's characters, do you think?
They're very different in many ways. I mean, Carrey is very introverted and very quiet, doesn't speak to anyone, and can barely speak up. And then, Hit Girl is loud and boisterous, but at the same time, what it is they both don't know what they want, but they know that they don't like what they're doing. You know what I mean? They both want something else other than what they're doing at the moment. And they both are completely off their game in a high school setting.
Mm-hmm.
And that is really the only similarities between the two, I'd say.
So you look like you're having a blast in this movie.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah.
It's such a wild performance. Can you talk a little bit about the evolution of your performance from Chris D'Amico to the motherfucker?
Of course, yeah. What I love about this one is that he knows exactly who he is now, because in the first one, he was struggling to find himself. He didn't know if he should be Red Mist with Kick-Ass or if he should be on the bad side with his dad. He was trying to be accepted by both people, so he was kind of at a loss of who he is. And in this one, he knows exactly who he's supposed to be, who's the motherfucker, and he's supposed to kill Kick-Ass.
Is it tricky kind of balancing out the comedic and the evil elements of the character? Because even though he does some pretty despicable things in the movie, you're still supposed to like him and enjoy watching him.
Well, thank you. I think, it wasn't a challenge. I don't think, like, oh, this should be played comedically and, oh, this should be played dramatically. I think that the character is a sociopath, and, he goes to the dark side, so he doesn't want to play it for humor.
Right.
He thinks he's, the Joker. He thinks he's the worst villain out there, but underneath that mask is just a 17-year-old boy. And I think that's where the humor comes from, is Jeff's writing, where it's like, this is such evil, dark things he's doing, but it's just a young boy doing it, and that's kind of where the humor comes from.
I have to ask about the costume, which is just this insane, incredible
crazy, man.
leather getup. I mean, is that an uncomfortable thing to be wearing?
It was, of course. I mean, you look at that thing, you're like, that guy's uncomfortable.
Essentially.
It was like 7 separate pieces. Took 30 minutes to get on. There was like 5 people that had to help me put it on. It was really exhausting to wear.
Does it bring out the motherfucker?
It does. It definitely, when you wear it, you look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, okay, this looks really cool. Yeah.
Was there any one sequence in the film that was particularly fun to play or challenging?
There were 2 scenes. There's a scene where I visit my uncle in the prison. That was a more dramatic scene that I was nervous for, but I thought I did a good job with it. And then there was a scene where I act opposite Jim Carrey that was just surreal, because he's one of my favorite actors of all time. Like, when I was younger, his movies were like the reason I love comedy. So to act opposite him was amazing.
And you always hear that he's like very method on set.
What's
that like?
He trusts himself and his instincts, so he'll do a take that's like 10 minutes, 15 minutes long, and he'll improvise, and he'll do it over and over, and then the director will come in and be like, oh, I think we got it, and he's just kind of like, no, I don't feel comfortable with it, and he does it until he feels good about it, which is pretty inspiring to watch. It is.